hand over the call to Kirtida Sundari Mataji to introduce our speaker. So, Kirtida Sundari Mataji, please introduce our speaker.
Thank you so much, Pavitra for your wonderful chanting and warmly welcoming everybody. I welcome you all for a mid-morning japa session. And today we have a very wonderful speaker with us. Her name is Nityananda Mataji. She is from New Jersey, disciple of His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Swami Maharaj. And I really, indebted to Mataji for graciously agreeing to give class today on this wonderful, auspicious day, on the glorious day on the appearance of Lord Nityananda. And wish you all a very happy appearance day of Lord Nityananda. Jai Nitai. And thank you so much, Nityananda Mataji, for agreeing to give class. Now I'll humbly hand over this call to you. You can please take over and you can just enlighten us on the glories of Lord Nityananda. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Kirtida Sundari, for having me on this conference call.
Mataji, you have to be a little louder. Your voice is really...
Sure. Thank you very much, Kirtida Sundari Mataji, for having me on this wonderful conference call. It is my good fortune, and I would like to speak something about Lord Nityananda and how we can benefit from the most auspicious day today in our own lives, how we can benefit from this auspicious appearance day of Lord Nityananda. So let me start by offering prayers to our Guru, Parampara, to our Siksha and Diksha Gurus. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmalitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitamena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Pada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitanscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam. For those of you who know the 12 names of Lord Chaitanya, I would like us to recite that. Because today is the appearance day of Lord Nityananda, he will be very happy when you recite the names of Lord Chaitanya. Chaitanya, Krishna Chaitanya, Gauranga Dvijanayakaha, Yatinam Dandinam Chaiva, Nyasinam Cha Shiromani, Raktambaradhara Shriman Navadipa Sudhakaraha, Prema Bhakti Pradaschaiva, Shri Sachinandana Sata. Nityananda Avadutendur Vasudha Pranavallabha Janava Jivita Patihi Krishna Prema Prada Prabhu Padmavati Sutta Shriman Sachinandana Purvajaha Bhavon Matta Jagatrata Rakta Gaura Kalevaraha. So first of all, I would like to ask everyone a question. What is it that attracts us to someone? What is very attractive about someone? When you see them for the first time, what attracts us to someone?
Beauty, the beauty, yeah.
Yes, beauty is one thing. What else is attractive about someone?
Their smile. Full smile.
Their smile.
Riches.
I'm sorry. Please go ahead.
Speech.
Speech, yes. I would like to go back to smile. Someone said that their smile is attractive. I would also say that the smile is because a person is very happy, and that's why they're smiling, and they're happy by nature, so that manifests as a smile on their face. So the first thing that we would like to see is what is the meaning of the name Nityananda. So Srila Prabhupada says in his meaning to the song Nityapada Kamala, he says that the meaning of the name Nityananda is eternally blissful. Lord Nityananda is eternally blissful. And Srila Prabhupada says that by taking shelter of this eternally blissful Lord, we also become eternally blissful. So this is the first thing that we have to understand, that our understanding of happiness is based on our senses. Last year on Gaur Purnima, we saw that most of us don't even have an understanding that there can be happiness apart from the sense perception. So if something, we are attracted to seeing something, our eyes get attracted to seeing something beautiful, our nose and smelling something nice fragrance, our skin and touching something, and our tongue and eating something, but we don't have a perception of happiness of the soul. We don't have a perception of happiness beyond the senses. So, but Lord Nityananda, being who he is eternally blissful, and this happiness arises because of his constantly serving Lord Chaitanya. Sorry? Hare Krishna.
Mataji, maybe we can ask everybody to mute themselves so we don't have disturbance.
Yes. Yeah. If you could kindly mute the phone, then we can continue with this without disturbance. And when we have some questions, then you can unmute and answer if there are any questions. So, thank you very much. We'll continue. And so last year we were looking during Gaur Purnima, when we were speaking, we were seeing that our sense of happiness is limited to what the senses can perceive, and only by coming to Krishna consciousness we can understand there is something beyond the senses. There is happiness which is beyond the senses, which arises because of the soul, the presence of the soul. This soul, which is also a part of Krishna, is eternal, it is full of knowledge, and it is blissful. So it is Sat, Chit and Ananda. So the nature of the soul is to be happy. But in the material world, the happiness that we obtain is flickering. So it is like the happiness is followed by misery, and then there is again a period of happiness which is again followed by misery. So when we see personality of Lord Nityananda, he is eternally blissful because of his ability to serve Lord Chaitanya, Lord Krishna. He is non-different from Balarama. So in the Krishna Leela, he serves as Balarama, and he serves in very many different ways. He serves Lord Krishna. And then in the pastimes of Lord Ramachandra, he serves as a younger brother, Lakshmana. And then in Vaikuntha, he serves as Anathasesha, and he becomes the bed of Lord Vishnu, Mahavishnu. And then in Gaur Leela, he serves as Lord Nityananda. So that he is always deriving pleasure from selflessly serving the Lord. So now this is a quality which all of us have to try and attain in our lives in serving. This quality of selflessly serving the Lord is something which we have to aim for. And the personality who can give us this uninterrupted, selfless, loving, devotional service to the Lord is Lord Nityananda. So this is a very important point to note down and to pray for on this most auspicious day of his appearance, praying for selflessly dedicating ourselves and unmotivated, unalloyed service to Lord Chaitanya and our spiritual masters. So this is one thing which we can understand, that this is how he offers his service to Lord Chaitanya. The second thing that we understand, that when Lord Krishna appears on the earth in any form, he appears along with his entourage. So my Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhaktitirtha Swami, says that these are confidential troopers of the Lord. So they come in the form of, there are different souls amongst us, even in the present day, who are confidential troopers of the Lord. What is the meaning of confidential troopers? They are Nitya-Siddha devotees of the Lord, but they have appeared on the earth to take part in the pastimes of the Lord, but they're all in disguise. So you really don't know who they are. Even when Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda appeared on the earth, they appeared as ordinary human beings. So these devotees of the Lord also appear as confidential troopers, but they are hidden and they are in disguise. And when they see the jivas who are suffering due to ignorance, due to avidya, due to sins, and to our past sins, or the present sins that we have committed in this lifetime, and due to the offenses that they feel suffering and they feel the pain on our behalf. So the jiva's nature is eternality, knowledge and bliss, and they are separated from that when they are in this material world. And they're suffering because of ignorance, because of the aparadhas and the anarthas that we carry, and the many sins that we have committed in the past. So when the confidential troopers and when these Nitya-siddha devotees see us suffering, they come down to relieve us of these burdens and to give us the right way in which to serve the Lord. So we are always caught up in the duality of material life, which is happiness and distress. Sometimes what happens is that when we are very happy, we become the proprietors. We think that we deserve that happiness, and that happiness has come about because of our own efforts. So we take proprietorship and we take ownership for that happiness. And when we are in distress, then we give in to the modes of material nature. So we start acting in the modes of ignorance and in the mode of passion. So there is always this duality of happiness and misery, and we're always caught up between these two polarities of happiness and distress. And so when these personalities come and they try to guide us, so there are different ways in which we can reach the spiritual world. One is by becoming a sadhana siddha, which means by practicing sadhana, very severe sadhana, where it is not the kind of sadhana that we are doing is nothing compared to the kind of sadhana that the devotees used to perform in the previous yugas. So we can see what was the sadhana performed by Dhruva Maharaj. So he was performing very rigorous sadhana in order to attain his goal. So in similar way, Narada Muni was performing different kinds of sadhana, and they all attained sadhana siddhi through their different processes of meditation or whatever they were doing in those previous yugas. So for us, the only hope is becoming a kripa siddha. We can become a sadhana siddha, but our sadhana has to be very perfect, and it has to be very concrete in order for us to attract the attention of the Lord. So then what is this? What does becoming a kripa siddha mean? It means becoming a kripa siddha means attracting the mercy of these personalities who come in disguise. And our Shastras, like Srimad Bhagavatam, give us ample examples of Kripa Siddhas. One very enduring example is that of Bali Maharaj. Bali Maharaj was born in the family of demons, and his grandfather, Prahlad Maharaj, was a devotee of the Lord. But still, Bali Maharaj was out to conquer the world, and then he was defeating his enemies, and he was conquering the world, and he was set on accomplishing his mission of becoming the ruler of the entire universe. But the time when Vamanadev came and asked him for charity, and when he asked him for 3 pieces of land, and that at that time when Bali Maharaj surrendered to Vamanadev, and then he said that when you don't have the 3rd piece of land, you can put your foot on my head. And when he offered his head for the 3rd piece of land, that was when he became a recipient of mercy by Prahlad Maharaj as well as Vamanadev. So at that point, when he completely surrendered, when he was performing this limb of Atma Nivedanam, then he became the recipient of mercy of the Lord. And we can also see in Gaur Leela, the very, very famous story of Jagai and Madai. They were not qualified to receive love of Godhead. And this Kripa Siddha, it is instantaneous. Kripa Siddhi is instantaneous. It doesn't take time. It is very quick. It doesn't take time at all. So when Jagai and Madai were in the world in Kali Yuga, and they were very coming from very wonderful Brahmana families, but they took up to very devious ways, and they performed all kinds of sinful activities. They were immersed in sinful activities. There's nothing that they have not committed, and the only thing that they hadn't committed was Vaishnava Aparadh. Apart from that, they had committed all kinds of sinful activities. They were drinking, they were killing children, and they were murdering people, and nobody could really even approach them. So they were always out to get the others who would approach them and give them sane advice. So everybody used to stay away from them. But we can see in the example of Jagai and Madai that they did not perform any austerities. They were not chanting any mantras. Despite coming from a noble birth, they were very devious and they were sinful. But Lord Nityananda even provided and accepted those sinful personalities like Jagai and Madai, and he gave them this mercy. So it is said that Lord Nityananda, in a song by Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur, he says that Lord Nityananda is giving love of Krishna with both hands. He's just, plundering the treasure house. He is the custodian. Lord Nityananda is the custodian, and it is said that Srila Sanatana Goswami is the doorkeeper. So these two personalities have been appointed because of their extremely merciful nature. So this Lord Nityananda is gathering the wealth of Krishna Prema, and then he is distributing it with both hands, despite he's not worried about whether anyone is qualified or not to receive this Krishna Prema. He's just distributing it left, right, and center. So with both hands, he's grabbing it and he's giving it to everyone. So we have to be so grateful that we are in this, Kali Yuga, where we are born in this Kali Yuga, where Lord Nityananda, the most merciful incarnation of Krishna, is there, and then he is distributing this love of Krishna to everyone, irrespective of their qualification. It is said that there are two people who can really, they have purchased Krishna. One is Srimati Radharani and one is Lord Nityananda. But without the grace of Lord Nityananda, we can't reach Lord Gauranga. And Lord Gauranga is the combined form of Radha and Krishna. So really, when you see it, Lord Nityananda is most merciful. So he is most merciful, and he can take us to Lord Chaitanya, who is none other than the combination of Radha and Krishna. So understanding this, we have to understand that we are very special. We can see that in the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the story of Prahlad Maharaj, his father Hiranyakashipu wants Prahlad Maharaj to study mundane education. He wants him to study religion, economic development, and sense gratification. And we also have to make this distinction that we are not a regular religion like the other religions that exist. And we have to understand this because we have a lot more to offer, and we also have to catch up with what these, the residents of Vrindavan, of Goloka Vrindavan, and the residents of Navadvip have come to give us. They have come to give us something very special. It is not mundane religion. Mundane religion focuses on rules and regulation. It focuses on what is dharma, and it focuses on this is what we have to do and this is what we will receive in return. So it focuses on fruitive activities, and it focuses on rules and regulations and moral code and conduct of ethics. But ours is far more than a mere religion. It is spirituality at the highest, where we are receiving not only liberation, but we are also going a step ahead, and we are serving, actually participating in the pastimes of the Lord in a particular mellow. So we are participating in the pastimes of the Lord in a particular mellow. So this is not regular religion. So we have to understand that for ourselves. So it is not like we go to the temple every weekend and you come back and there is no change in our consciousness. If there is no transformation in us, there is no point, then it becomes just a regular religion. So today is a very wonderful day to actually to set aside, to reflect on our own spiritual journey and to see where we stand in terms of our service, where we stand in terms of our, the steps of the devotional service. Where are we in the ladder of devotional service? Are we in Anartha Nivritti? And we can understand and we can see that what are the things that we can do, or what are the things that we can start doing in order to progress further. Is there something, so we can identify and list out the kind of anarthas that we have, or what are the shortcomings that we have. We can be honest with ourselves, we can introspect, and we can write it down, and we can see what are the shortcomings that we have. Is it laziness? Is it lack of greed? Because greed is a very important factor in our spiritual life. If there is no greed to progress, if there is no greed to one day participate in the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya in the spiritual world, or the pastimes of Lord Krishna in the spiritual world, we will not progress much. Because that greed will propel us to take action. So that greed will propel us to take certain steps so that we can move forward in our spiritual life. So there are three things that we can do today. There is some things which we can start doing. If we are not reading Srimad Bhagavatam or the books of Srila Prabhupada, like his Bhagavad Gita, the Bhagavatam and the Chaitanya Charitamrita, today is a good day to start reading them. So we can petition Lord Nityananda that I would really like to start reading, I would like to start hearing more, whatever it is that we can make a start with. Or we can start chanting more, whatever things that we can start serving more, whatever that we would like to offer to Lord Nityananda on this day. So that's one thing. And then there is another thing which we can stop doing. There are certain things that we do which takes us away from Krishna, like probably waste our time on certain activities which are not relevant for us in spiritual life. So, and we don't have the willpower to stop ourselves from doing that. So today is a good day to petition Lord Nityananda that I am doing these activities which are not conducive for my spiritual life, and I would like you, my dear Lord Nityananda, to help me to stop doing these activities so that I can move forward in spiritual life. And there are certain activities which we are doing and we would like to continue doing them. So there is start, stop, and continue doing certain activities. So it's like a kind of spiritual stock taking where we can sit down and see what is it that we are doing, what is it that we ought to start doing, what is it that we ought to stop doing, and what is it that we ought to continue doing. So these three things will help us to move forward in our spiritual life. So then we might have a question that if we are so dependent on the mercy of Lord Nityananda or on the mercy of the Nitya Siddha devotees of the Lord, why do we even perform sadhana? What is the need for sadhana? The need for sadhana is to situate us. We cannot enter into a platform of mode of goodness from the platform of cannot enter transcendence from the platform of ignorance and from the platform of passion. So it is necessary for us to perform sadhana based on the rules and regulations in order to reach the platform of the mode of goodness. And from the platform of mode of goodness, where we can discriminate from what is right and what is wrong, we can use our intelligence, we can move on to the platform of transcendence. There is no way in which we are going to go straight from the mode of ignorance and from the mode of passion to the mode of transcendence. Not to the mode of transcendence, but to transcendence. So there is no way in which we can actually do that without situating ourselves in the mode of goodness. So we have many limbs of devotional service, but we are not performing any of those limbs properly. So it is said that in order for us to position ourselves to become recipients of this Lord's mercy, so the Lord is going to see this person is very greedy. They really want to get me in this lifetime. They want to attain me in this lifetime. So they're going to see, and it's like a person who has fallen into a well, and the passerby is passing by, and he hears a shout for help, and they're dropping a rope into the well. And we're still shouting, saying, oh, in spite of seeing the rope, we're still shouting, saying, oh, help me, someone help me. We are not willing to catch on to the rope which has actually come our way. The rope has already been dropped. We have already been given the holy names, but we have not held on to that rope with both hands, and that's why we are not able to move forward. So the mercy is like a deciding factor. It decides we have to put in effort, and in proportion to the effort that we put in, we also receive mercy. And when we put in the effort and we try to hold on to the rope, and when we receive mercy and when we are pulled out, we have a bad habit. When we come out, we say, oh, I got out because of my own effort. And we completely are oblivious of the mercy that has come our way. We do not recognize or we do not understand that the mercy is totally disproportionate to our efforts. So that's something which we have to understand also, that the mercy is the deciding factor, and our effort is also very necessary in spiritual life. Without effort, the mercy might come, but it might come in proportion to the effort that we are putting in. But in Kali Yuga, in this age where we have Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, especially Lord Nityananda, he is most merciful. He doesn't even care for the efforts that you have put in. So we are trying to make our most effort in trying to reach that highest level, the highest goal of Krishna Prema. And mercy is available according to that. So we shouldn't stop making our efforts, waiting for Kripa to come, saying, oh, anyway, Lord Nityananda is most merciful, he will give me Kripa. So we have to continue with our efforts and also wait for the mercy to come in. So that's something which we also have to understand. So this Lord Nityananda, who is the doorkeeper, he's also referred to as a broker in a song by Dalalila Gita by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, where he refers to him as Koda Nitai. He is a broker. And this Lord Nityananda, he is rolling on the ground. He is crying and he is begging everybody, please take the holy names of Krishna, with a straw between his teeth. He's asking us, take these holy names of Krishna. And he is promising us that he is going to be purchased by us taking the holy names of Krishna. And only the amount that we have to pay is faith. So where do we get this faith from? Where does this faith in the holy names come from? So this is a question which we have to ask ourselves, because we don't have faith that the holy name is from the spiritual world. If we did have that faith that the holy name is from the spiritual world and the spiritual master is from the spiritual world, we would not be suffering in our spiritual life. So I'm speaking for myself here, that we would not be really suffering where we don't have taste for the holy names. It's because we don't have intense faith that the holy names are all that we need. And the faith that we get to chant the holy names, to develop more taste in the holy names, comes from associating with devotees who have faith. The devotee who has faith can instill that faith in us, that the holy names are the only things that we need. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, we always think that the chanting of the holy name starts with the mouth and then it goes into the heart. But Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes in one of his books, he says that the holy name proper, it descends from the mouth of the sadhu. It enters our ears, it goes into us, it goes into our heart, and then from the heart, it comes back on our tongue and dances on our tongue. So that is the actual chanting of the holy name, when the holy name originates from our heart and dances on our tongue. So we want to get that holy name which comes from our heart and dances on the tongue. And the person who can give us that holy name is Lord Nityananda, because that's what he is doing all the time. He's just chanting the holy names of Krishna, and he's completely oblivious to his surroundings. He is a divine madman. He is completely taken in by the holy names of Krishna, and he's constantly chanting that, and all he wants to do is serve Lord Chaitanya in any which way that he can. He's ready to serve in any which way he can. And even though he is an older brother of Lord Chaitanya, he takes on the mood of a younger brother, and he takes on the mood of a servant where he wants to serve Lord Chaitanya. And he can teach us this mood of service as well, of just serving Lord Chaitanya in any which way that we can. So this is the property of Lord Nityananda. He has this holy names, which is the Prema Dana, which he can give us. Now we want to see what is the appearance of Lord Nityananda. How did he look? And how was it? We saw that first of all that Lord Nityananda was very happy. And happiness is very attractive. Speaking for myself, this time when I was in India, my family, they all noticed that there is a change. And they said that you seem very happy. You're always happy. And they said that now we understand that this transformation is brought about by Krishna consciousness. So they could make out that distinction that this happiness It is not ordinary. It comes because of Krishna consciousness. And at a certain point of time in life, you start forgetting about the dualities that exist. It is not that we are in denial that there is a duality, there is happiness and distress, but we don't care about them anymore. So this stage of Krishna consciousness is very attractive to the others. Whether we notice it or not, they are noticing us, and they take notice that saying this person has become much more happier than before. And what is the reason for this happiness? So this happiness comes from serving the Lord, and it comes from serving the devotees, and also understanding that material life is temporary. So there is going to be happiness, there is going to be distress, and we can't deal with that constantly. So only way is to stay above this and transcend the modes of ignorance and passion. So now we have to see what was this appearance of Lord Nityananda. He was so attractive that his beauty, someone said that the beauty of a person is very attractive, and one of the weapons that Lord Chaitanya used in his Chaitanya Leela to attract devotees was his smile, his beautiful smile. Apart from his, it is said that Sango Pangas Parsadam, so he came along with all his Sangha, Panga and all his weapons. They came as devotees and they assisted him in spreading the Harinam Sankirtan movement. So we have a description, a very beautiful description of Lord Nityananda in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and this is how he appeared to Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. When Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, it is said that when he had an altercation with his brother, so his brother was willing to appreciate Lord Chaitanya, but he was not willing to appreciate Lord Nityananda. And also, as most of us know about the incident of Miniketan Ramdas, where he comes in and the servant is worshipping the deities and he doesn't pay much attention to Miniketan Ramdas. So anyway, the story leads on that night when this happened, when Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami's brother and he had an altercation, Lord Nityananda appeared in the dream of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, the author of Chaitanya Charitamrita. And this is first-hand account of the appearance of Lord Nityananda. So it says that he had a glossy, blackish complexion, and his tall, strong, heroic stature made him seem like Cupid himself. He had beautifully formed hands, arms, and legs, and eyes like lotus flowers. He wore a silk cloth with a silk turban on his head. He wore golden earrings on his ears and golden armlets and bangles. He wore tinkling anklets on his feet and a garland of flowers around his neck. His body was anointed with sandalwood pulp, and he was nicely decorated with tilaka. His movements surpassed those of a maddened elephant. His face was more beautiful than millions upon millions of moons, and his teeth were like pomegranate seeds because of his chewing betel. His body moved to and fro, right and left, for he was absorbed in ecstasy. He chanted Krishna, Krishna in a deep voice. His red stick, so Nityananda used to carry a red stick, and it is said this red stick is very special. He removes all the obstacles on the path of devotees. So his red stick, moving in his hand, he seemed like a maddened lion. All around the four sides of his feet were bumblebees. His devotees, dressed like cowherd boys, surrounded his feet like so many bees and also chanted Krishna, Krishna, absorbed in ecstatic love. Some of them played horns and flutes, and others danced and sang. Some of them offered betel nuts, and others waved chamara fans about him. Thus I saw such opulence in Lord Nityananda Swarupa. His wonderful form, qualities, and pastimes are all transcendental. So here Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is explaining how Lord Nityananda looked. So this is a first-hand, very beautiful narration of the appearance of Lord Nityananda. So if you see and if you notice that Lord Nityananda was not appearing alone in the dream of Lord of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. He was appearing along with his cowherd boys. There are 12 Gopalas who assist Lord Nityananda, and each one of them is very unique, just like how Lord Nityananda is very unorthodox. He is not orthodox in the sense that he does not give love of Godhead in a very prim and proper way. His method of giving love of Krishna is very unorthodox. So his cowherd boys were also the same. They were all crazy in love with Krishna, and they were also just totally lost. It is said that when they all set out for Navadvip Dham, when Lord Chaitanya ordered them, they would start out, and Lord Nityananda would first of all inject in them in the mood of this Krishna Prema. So they would all be imbued in that mood, and they would be totally lost. So they would start walking towards Navadvip, and they would get lost on the way. And they would go around in circles. When they asked the villagers, they would say, oh, you're 20 miles away from the road, so you have to take this path again. And they were hours behind in reaching Mayapur, because that was the level of love of Godhead that they were immersed in. These are things which we really cannot understand because of our limited experience of the nature of spirituality and the nature of ecstasies that arise in devotees. So we really cannot understand that with our limited intelligence. But as we read Srila Prabhupada's books, as we read the Srimad Bhagavatam, and we start understanding what are the glories of the Lord, then we start understanding the experiences that his devotees face during the process of executing devotional service. So there is a description of all the Gopalas also. And there's a very, very beautiful description and a chapter dedicated to all the Gopalas of Lord Nityananda. There are different personalities like Angada, and there is Gadadhar Das, and there are different people who are participating in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes who are assisting Lord Nityananda. So Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is not only seeing Lord Nityananda with his red stick, and he's also seeing all the cowherd Gopalas. Now the point that we want to understand here is that if you go back to the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, where Lord Kapila Dev is instructing his mother, the process of devotional service is so simple, where he is instructing his mother on Sankhya Yoga, and he's teaching her on how, by meditating on the Lord, you start fixing your mind on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and in one of his innumerable forms like Krishna, Vishnu, Rama, Narayan, etc. And then slowly, when you have developed pure love for Lord, and then when your eyes are smeared with the ointment of transcendental loving exchange, then you always see within your heart the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the devotees of Krishna especially see the beautiful blackish form of Shyamasundar. But Srila Prabhupada says that for in the purport to a particular verse in the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, I think it is third canto, 25th chapter, text 18. So he says there is this particular verse which says, Kirtanya Tirtha Yasasam Punya Shloka Yashakaram Dhyaye Devam Samagranangam Yavan Nachavate Manaha. The glory of the Lord is always worth singing, for his glories enhance the glories of his devotees. One should therefore meditate upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and upon his devotees one should meditate on the eternal form of the Lord until the mind becomes fixed. So here they're talking about meditating and fixing the mind on the Lord, because Lord Kapila Dev is instructing his mother on yoga. But Srila Prabhupada has said that we can achieve the same effect by participating in kirtan, by hearing and chanting not only the holy names but also the glories of the Lord. That is also a form of kirtan. And also Srila Prabhupada is referring, there's a particular word in this verse called Punya Shlokam. It's called Punya Shloka. So I'm just reading out from the purport. Another significant word in this verse is Punya Shloka Yashakaram. The devotee is called Punya Shloka. As one becomes purified by chanting the holy name of the Lord, so one can become purified simply by chanting the name of a holy devotee. The pure devotee of the Lord and the Lord himself are non-different. It is sometimes feasible to chant the holy name of a holy devotee. This is a very sanctified process. Lord Chaitanya was once chanting the holy names of the gopis when his students criticized him. Why are you chanting the names of the gopis? Why not Krishna? Lord Chaitanya was irritated by the criticism, and so there was some misunderstanding between him and his students. He wanted to chastise them for desiring to instruct him on the transcendental process of chanting. The beauty of the Lord is that the devotees who are connected with his activities are also glorified. Arjuna, Prahlada, Janak Maharaj, Bali Maharaj, and many other devotees were not even in the renounced order of life, but were householders. Some of them, such as Prahlad Maharaj and Bali Maharaj, were born of demoniac families. Prahlad Maharaj's father was a demon, and Bali Maharaja was a grandson of Prahlad Maharaj. But still, they have become famous because of their association with the Lord. Anyone who is eternally associated with the Lord is glorified with the Lord. The conclusion is that a perfect yogi should always be accustomed to seeing the form of the Lord, and unless the mind is fixed in that way, he should continue practicing yoga. So the point that we want to understand from this purport is that, first of all, that the Lord always appears with the devotees. It is said that you see the Lord in the heart, but the Lord does not appear alone, and he is not just static. He is performing some activity, and the devotees are along with him. So this is the way in which the Lord appears in the heart. And also in the purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions that you can call out to these devotees, like how Lord Chaitanya was calling out to the gopis. Now, what would be the practical application of this in our lives is that we can see that some of the devotees that Srila Prabhupada is mentioning here, like Bali Maharaj, Janak Maharaj, and Prahlad Maharaj, these were Mahajanas. And they are Mahajana Acharyas who are perfected in one particular anga or one particular form of devotional service. Like, so we have Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, the 9 forms of devotional service. So whenever we find ourselves lacking, and whenever we find ourselves struggling with a particular anartha or a particular form of devotional service that we are not able to keep up, then we can call out to these devotees and they will come to help us, because that is what is promised in the Srimad Bhagavatam here, where it is said that when you glorify these devotees who are called as Punya Shloka, and one can simply become purified by simply chanting the name of a holy devotee. Tulasi Maharani is one such devotee. So by just chanting her 8 names and by chanting her names, we can easily become purified. So this is one way in which we can also request Lord Nityananda, his cowherd friends, all his Gopalas, to assist us in devotional service, because they're always busy in serving the Lord. So this is one thing which we can also take home today, that these devotees who are Punya Shloka can be called out to and they will reciprocate. Lord Nityananda himself, he can call out the name. If some kind of anartha is tormenting us, let's say if pride is tormenting us, if lust is tormenting us, we can loudly call out the names of these devotees. I just want to share a quick example, which is like in the present day, which happened. So we can also use this particular example in our spiritual life. So this is a kind of an example which is for a material reason, in the sense that there was once a gardener, a devotee, and he was serving in Bhubaneswar, and he was under the guidance of Srila Gaur Govind Maharaj. So this particular gardener had to cross a big field which was infested with snakes in order to reach the other side of the field and tend to the garden. So these snakes would be there, and he was frightened of them. So he came back and told Gaur Govind Maharaj that there are snakes which are there on my path, and I'm afraid to cross. So Maharaj said, the next time you see them, please take my name and tell them that you are associated with me. And the next time when he saw the snakes quickly vanished away. They just left that person to go in peace. So this is the power of chanting the names of the devotees of the Lord. And if you see in our parampara, except for Krishna, the rest of them are all his devotees. So they are all Prakriti. They are all serving him some way or the other. The Srimati Radharani, all the gopis, all the Manjaris, and all the Goswamis. Everybody is like, a devotee of Krishna. So we can call out their names whenever we find ourselves facing certain problems in our spiritual life. So this is something which I found which was helpful to me, and I would like to also share it with all of you so that you can try it out and see if this really this really works because it's given in the Bhagavatam. And the moment you're tormented by, because the mind is constantly accepting, rejecting things, and it just behaves like a monkey all the time. So this is a very powerful process of calling out to a devotee. Just call out to Lord Nityananda and call out to all his associates and all these personalities whom Srila Prabhupada has mentioned, and they will immediately come to our rescue. So that's one thing which we can understand from this particular experience of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, that Lord Nityananda was accompanied by all his associates who were around him like bumblebees, and they were constantly drinking the nectar of his beauty, and they will also help others who are inclined to serve the Lord. So now we want to quickly read. We have about 15 minutes, and I would like to quickly read a particular pastime from this very wonderful book called Nityananda Charitamrita. And we just want to read about this particular dream of Mother Sachi. So it's called Srivasa's Love for Lord Nityananda and the Dream of Mother Sachi. Nityananda Prabhu thus remained at the house of Srivas Pandit. He was constantly absorbed in a childish mood. So he was so unorthodox, this Nityananda Prabhu, that he, at any cost, he wants to give love of Krishna to others. So it is said that in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, there was this Dari Sannyasis who met Lord Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya once. And these Dari Sannyasis were used to taking intoxication, meat, and they were into sinful activities, but they still portrayed themselves as sannyasis. So they met Lord Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya once, and they invited them to their home. And they wanted to feed them with liquor, saying this is Ananda, so you should have some. Lord Chaitanya immediately became aware and alert, but Lord Nityananda, he did not realize that these people were feeding them something which is forbidden. They should not have it. Lord Chaitanya was ready to jump into the Ganga with all his clothes on, but Lord Nityananda, he was totally oblivious. So sometimes he would behave like a child. He would not be aware of his clothing. He would just roll on the ground sometimes. So Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur in one of his songs explains that this huge form of molten gold is falling down on the earth like a Sumeru Parvat, and he is rolling around on the ground. So this was the way in which Lord Nityananda used to operate, very unorthodox, and he was thinking that the more time that these Dari Sannyasis would get to spend with Lord Chaitanya, there would be more chance for them to get liberated from their material existence and from their sinful activities, whatever they were performing under the name of sannyasa. So this was his mood. So here it is said that thus Nityananda Prabhu remained at the house of Srivas Pandit. He was constantly absorbed in a childish mood, and he would not eat food with his own hand, but had Malini Devi, the wife of Srivas Thakur, to feed him, just like her own son. Malini Devi, the chaste wife of Srivas Pandit, knew very well the glories of Lord Nityananda, so she served him as an affectionate mother. One day, as Lord Gauranga discussed Krishna with Srivas Pandit, he spoke as follows to test him. Why do you keep this mendicant in your house? We do not know anything about his family background. I must say that you are overly magnanimous. If you want to protect your family's good name, get rid of this beggar at once. Srivas Pandit smilingly replied, O Lord, you are certainly testing me. This is most unfair. Anyone who worships you even for a day is very dear to me. Nityananda is non-different from you. There is no doubt about this. Even if Nityananda is seen carrying a pot of wine, or if he marries a Muslim girl, my heart will still not deviate even an inch from his glorious lotus feet, even though this may destroy my caste, life, and wealth. I indeed tell you the truth. When the Lord heard this from Srivas Pandit, he roared loudly and climbed on his chest. The Lord said, What did you say, Srivas Pandit? You have so much faith in Nityananda. You have actually understood the most confidential glories of Nityananda. So he was very happy. He says, I'm so pleased with you that I will give you a benediction. Even if Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, begs in the street, there will never be any poverty in your house. Everyone in your house, including the cats and dogs, will achieve undivided devotional service unto me. I offer Nityananda to your care. Therefore, please maintain him in all respects. After blessing Srivas Pandit, the Lord returned home. Lord Nityananda would regularly wander throughout Nadia. Sometimes he swam in the middle of the Ganga so that the current of the water carried him away. Sometimes he happily enjoyed sporting with local boys, and sometimes he would visit the house of Gangadas and Murari. Lord Nityananda would sometimes visit the house of Lord Chaitanya. Then Mother Sachi would show great affection to him. In a childish mood, Nityananda would try to catch hold of Mother Sachi's feet, but she would run away. One day, Mother Sachi saw something in a dream. She secretly related the story to her son. She says, Vishwambara, saying, at the end of the night, I saw both you and Nityananda in my dream. Both of you were 5-year-old boys, fighting and running all over the house. I saw both of you enter the deity room and then come out with the deities of Krishna and Balaram. Nityananda held Krishna in his hands and you held Balarama in yours. I clearly saw all 4 of you fighting amongst yourselves. Then the deities of Krishna and Balarama said in an angry mood, who are you 2 pretenders? Get out of here. This house, these rooms, the milk, sandesh, yogurt and everything else here belongs to us. Then Nityananda said, those days are gone when you would steal and eat butter and yogurt. The power of cowherd boys is finished. Now the rule of the Brahmanas is in force. Now recognize us and give up accepting all the offerings. If you don't give up out of love, then we will beat you. If you continue to steal the offerings, we are not going to leave you alone. Both Krishna and Balarama replied, do not blame us. We are going to bind both of you pretenders right now. Balarama then challenged Nityananda in an angry mood. If you continue your mischief, then I swear on Krishna that you will have to face the consequences. Nityananda replied, I am not afraid of your Krishna. My lord is Gaurachandra Vishwambara. In this way, all 4 of you quarreled amongst yourselves while eating food by snatching it from one another. First, someone snatched a morsel of food from another's hand and ate. Then someone else took that food right from his mouth. Nityananda then called me, Mother, please give me some rice, for I am very hungry. Just then I woke up. I could not understand anything of this dream, and so I have told you about it. While listening to his mother, Lord Vishwambara smiled and then spoke to her in a sweet voice. Oh, Mother, you indeed had an auspicious dream, but please do not describe it to anyone. Now I am firmly convinced that the deities worshipped in your house are directly the Supreme Personality of Godhead. My faith has become strengthened by hearing about your dream. After offering food to the Lord, I repeatedly found half of it missing. This is Lord Chaitanya saying. After offering food to the Lord, I repeatedly found half of it missing, but I was hesitant to tell this to anyone. Actually, I had a doubt about your daughter-in-law, but today that doubt has been removed from my mind. While hearing her husband's words, Lakshmi Priya, who is directly the goddess of fortune, simply smiled. She heard about the dream from inside an adjoining room. Mother, please listen, Vishwambara said. I will at once invite Nityananda and feed him. Upon hearing the words of her son, Sachi was very pleased and began making arrangements for lunch. Accepting Sri Chaitanya and Nityananda Prabhu as my life and soul, I, Vrindavan Das, sing the glories of their lotus feet. So this is a narration where Sachi Mata is seeing Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda and Krishna and Balarama. And again, this story or this dream is establishing the fact that in Kali Yuga, the Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda have come to indiscriminately distribute love of Krishna. So there is no place for Krishna and Balaram. They are non-different from them in one sense. So they are Krishna and Balarama, but the Yuga avatar for this age are Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. And by worshipping them and by serving them, all our desires to attain Krishna will be fulfilled instantaneously. So this is the method for this yuga, and so this dream is also establishing Lord Nityananda as being an Avadut, and who can understand this particular Avadut and this mentality of Lord Krishna, of Lord Nityananda, only his very close associates. So Srivas Thakur was someone who understands this personality, and he knows that even though Lord Nityananda behaves in these kind of unusual ways, he is the Supreme Lord. He is non-different from Lord Chaitanya, and he is most worshipable. So this is the kind of even in the present day, we have certain preachers and we have certain devotees who are also adopting this particular mood of Lord Nityananda, which we are not able to perceive because we are so fanatical about the way the things have to be done. We are very orthodox about the way in which things have to be done. So we don't really realize the mood of these special devotees who somehow or the other want to induce. Srila Prabhupada says our duty is to somehow or the other induce people to take up Krishna consciousness. Ena tena prakarena. So this is Srila Rupa Goswami. He says that somehow or the other we have to induce people to take up Krishna consciousness, and we have to devise newer and newer means in which they can take up Krishna consciousness. So there are certain acharyas, and there have been personalities like Lord Nityananda who have appeared before Srila Prabhupada, and there are certain personalities who will appear now after Srila Prabhupada who will use very unusual methods to propagate the holy names. And we should not become bewildered by what they're doing, but we have to see if the essence of Krishna consciousness is what they're carrying and what they're giving, and if they're strict with their own way of living. So we have to watch out on who is really a Vaishnava, so we can observe these certain symptoms in certain devotees where they have very unusual ways of preaching, and we should not point our finger immediately at them and say they're not doing something which even Srila Prabhupada recommended in the Srimad Bhagavatam. In one of the purposes, Srila Prabhupada writes that we are preaching to the demons, so we have to enter the society in a way in which it is conducive for them to accept that. So in that sense, if it requires that we preach in a way without, tilaka, without kantimala, and we go in, common clothes, disguise, so to speak, it is okay. So these are certain things that we can understand from the pastimes of Lord Nityananda. But what we have to be wary of is that we have to gauge them on their internal consciousness and have to see whether they are attracted to money, women, and fame. Kanak, Kamini, and Pratishtha. These are the three things, and by which we can gauge whether a particular devotee is surrendered to Krishna and whether he is acting on the guidance of the divine energy of the Lord or whether they are deviant. So these are certain things which we have to bear in mind when we study and see the personality of Lord Nityananda, and also of certain preachers who have existed in our movement and will also exist in the future. So this is something which I wanted to share. And the last thing that we want to share is that we spoke about Lord Nityananda being the same as Balarama. Srila Narottam Das Thakur says, Balram hoilo nitai, Sachi Sutta hoilo se, and that Sachi Sutta, the Lord Chaitanya is Krishna, and then Balaram is Lord Nityananda. So Balram as our spiritual master, he is the eternal spiritual master of all spiritual masters. So Lord Nityananda, being the eternal spiritual master, will take out all our obstacles from our path. And this is not theoretical. So on this most auspicious day of Nityananda Trayodasi, there's a very practical thing which we can do. And I tried it several years ago, and my life turned topsy-turvy after that, but it was most effective. You can write a letter to Lord Nityananda and beg him to remove all the obstacles that are in our way in attaining pure devotional service, in attaining Krishna Prema. And Lord Nityananda will intervene, and the results will almost be instantaneous, where he will take your life apart. I prayed for freedom from duplicity, because duplicity is a great stumbling block on a path of devotional service, where we're thinking one thing, we're saying something, we're doing something else. So it is said that, I don't remember where I read it, unfortunately. I don't remember where I read this, but it is said that we sometimes have to take many lifetimes. It at least takes 3 lifetimes for us to be properly situated, to get rid of all our anarthas. But if you get rid of duplicity, then in 1 lifetime we can attain Krishna. So there is this big talk going on about whether we can attain Krishna in 1 lifetime or not. Srila Prabhupada also emphatically states that we can attain Krishna in 1 lifetime, provided we serve the devotees and Krishna without any duplicity, without any desire other than wanting to serve them for the sake of serving them. without having any other ulterior motive, and without wanting anything else in return. We don't have time, but there is a beautiful letter. If some of you have this book on Mother Ladini, and she writes a very inspiring letter to Lord Nityananda, begging him to. The words that she uses are very powerful. I don't remember much of it, but then she prays to him to beat her into a straight line, where she becomes so fixed up in her devotion. She's already very fixed in her devotional service, but she prays to Lord Nityananda, and she writes a letter to him, and you can see that she became such a powerful warrior fighting for Krishna, for others. So we have something very powerful in our movement, and it is not regular religion. So we saw that it is not regular religion. To summarize, we saw that we are in this world of misery, where there is duality, there is happiness, and there is misery. If we play into either of this, we cannot rise above and we cannot transcend. So the way in which we transcend is the help of devotees. So we saw that Lord Nityananda is appearing in the form of a devotee. He is a servant leader. He is serving Lord Chaitanya in various ways, and he is following all the instructions. Lord Chaitanya says, go and preach. He's doing that. So we want to take the help of Lord Nityananda. We want to pray to him today. We want to introspect and see what are our shortcomings, what we have to stop, what we have to start, what we can continue doing, so that we can move on in our spiritual life. And I would like to end here and offer my gratitude for being allowed to speak on the glorious Lord Nityananda, and I would really like to thank all of you for being patient and for listening. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you so much for this very, very beautiful class, and it's so much inspiring and so much to learn, and long way to go. So thank you so much for all your instructions that you have given. I just have one quick question regarding the first part of the class, where you were telling about that sadhana siddhi is not possible in this age of Kali Yuga, and we should aspire to become a Kripa Siddha. So in that line, I have a question like, what is the criteria in which we can be the recipient of that Kripa, of that mercy that comes from Vaishnavas and our Acharyas and spiritual masters?
The criteria.
Thank you, Kirti. I had the same question.
No, thank you, Lakshmi.
The criteria is complete surrender, and surrender with love. So when you see, when I was explaining about Bali Maharaj, where he became the recipient of mercy, and Jagai and Madai, when they completely surrendered to Lord Nityananda, they fell at his lotus feet, and at that point Lord Nityananda completely embraced them. He also restricted Lord Chaitanya from punishing them. At that point, when they completely surrendered to Lord Nityananda, that was a time when they completely became the recipient of Kripa of the Lord. So the surrender that we practice is partial. It is either artificial or it's conditional. Okay, if you do these things for me, I will surrender to you, O Lord. But the moment, you're free from that, then we are no longer willing to surrender to the Lord. But the surrender, if you see, even in the stages of surrender, if you see the surrender of the gopis, they was just so surrendered to Krishna that they were even willing to go to hell. They were willing to give their food dust for Krishna. Even if it's going to help him, I will give my food dust to Krishna. So that is a level of surrender. And at that point, you become a recipient of the Lord's mercy, when there is complete surrender.
Yes, Mataji, I 100% agree that yes, surrender is the surrender is the only criteria, because if you see of course in gopis, yes, Bali Maharaj, yes, but if you see the pastime of Jagai and Madai, right. So Jagai and Madai, they surrendered not out of love, but something out of fear, because when they saw Lord Chaitanya is raising his, Sudarshan Chakra, so maybe because out of fear, just to save themselves, to save their own life, that they surrender. So still, we should go ahead with it, like how it goes.
See, that's why we said that though we cannot really, there are ways in which maybe we can become sadhana siddhas. If you have come with sufficient credits from our previous lifetimes, we can still become like sadhana siddhas. But we also said that we made a mention that even though we cannot become really sadhana siddhas, we have to put in effort. So it doesn't depend on any criteria, in the sense that just like how Bhakti Devi is independent, this Kripa Siddha also, though it depends on surrender, where in your heart you're completely offering your body, mind and words for the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
But it is also independent of anything. It's just like, you become dear to the Lord because of your activities, and the Lord immediately wants to give you prema. So that is what it is. So there is really that is why it is ahaituki, where there is no cause for that, and there's no reason why you become a recipient of that. You position yourself, you do your best, you put in your effort, you try to be in the mode of goodness, and you do all your efforts, whatever you can. But ultimately, whether the Lord wants to give you prema or not, that adhikar is rests with Him. So in the case of in Jagai and Madai, even though they were completely sinful, the Lord Nityananda accepted them. So that is this point that you brought out, where they surrendered out of fear. So in Chaitanya Leela, it is that in Krishna Leela, the Lord says, you surrender unto me. But in Chaitanya Leela, the Lord doesn't even expect that. It is just that they want to give them the holy names somehow or the other. And the moment they see, and Lord Nityananda says that there is no point in you, Lord Chaitanya, giving the holy names to those who are already pious. For someone who is already pious, it is very easy for them to take up, somewhat relatively easy, not very easy, relatively easy for them to take up chanting devotional service. But if you change the minds of these two rogues, then I will consider you as the incarnation of Kali Yuga. So in that sense, there is really no criteria where you can say that, this is what is needed for us to attract the mercy of the Lord. We can do many things. We can do the best thing that we can do to attract the mercy of the Lord is to follow the instructions of the spiritual master. That will attract the mercy of the Lord, because once you're following the spiritual master's instructions, the spiritual master is the one who is going to recommend you, saying, okay, this person is following everything nicely, and he can recommend you. Then you become a recipient of the Lord's mercy through them. This is exactly the process. We are tossed from one person to another, where we reach Srimati Radharani finally. Okay, and then she says, okay, this person is good and they can serve my Krishna nicely with the best things. So then I accept them as a servant. So one sense, there is really no criteria in this age, because the most degraded persons who have not performed any austerity, they are not in any, in the worst modes of mode of ignorance and passion, they can get the mercy of Lord Nityananda. There is no criterion. But if you see, then when we position ourselves as devotees who are practicing sadhana bhakti, then we position ourselves and we set ourselves in a plane where we can be the recipient of mercy. Just by glance you can get mercy of the Lord. So when Lord Nityananda was dancing, you just glance at someone and they would be imbued with all the ecstatic symptoms, and they would start jumping up and start singing and chanting the holy names. So that is the speciality of Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda, where there is really no criteria. It is just freedom from duplicity. When you're free from duplicity, when you are not saying, when you're simple, when you're very simple in your outlook, there is no hidden agenda, then you become a recipient of the Lord's mercy. There's nothing else. You just want to serve.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, Madhavi. Thank you so much for this very, very beautiful answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very beautiful and motivating, Mataji. So basically, there is no common formula which we all can use to attract mercy. It differs from situation to situation, person to person, and the amount of desire we have, it varies from person to person, I think,
Exactly.
to attract mercy.
It depends.
It's not common formula. There is no common formula in the variables.
The common formula is following instructions of the sadhu, guru, and shastras. That is a common formula, because once you're situated there, then the Lord will notice you saying, okay, this person is trying hard. And because we are still performing by the sadhana bhakti, and though we do have the greed, and we do want to have this intense greed, where without intense greed we really cannot progress in spiritual life. So the progress is also based on greed, like you rightly said. So we have intense greed, and it depends upon that. And the Lord will reciprocate according to that particular greed. It is said that our Guru Maharaj used to always say that when the desire to serve exceeds the capacity to serve, at that point empowerment happens.
Wow.
So you have a desire to serve, but you're not capable of serving. But you have this very strong desire, I want to preach, I want to serve you in this way, Krishna. And that you really are not capable, you know that. So at that point where your desire to serve exceeds your capacity to serve, it is at that point when empowerment happens. So it's Kripa Siddha is something like that.
Very nice, Mataji. Thank you.
Thank you, Vilasamaji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all Vaishnav Prabhupada Gurudev. Such a wonderful class, Mataji. Thank you very much for your association. Jai Jai Shri Radhe Shyam.
Jai Jai Shri Radhe.
Hare Krishna, Mother Nityananda. This is Gail Gorangi.
Gorangi, how are you?
You are
Hare Krishna. Oh, thank you for class. You know, I know that you have spent so much time trying to clarify this last point about there being no need for qualification, you know. Nityananda says, just your faith alone is all I ask. But still somehow or other, I am still a little fuzzy about this lack of qualification. When, for example, when Lord Nityananda says, I just ask for your faith, does that faith mean I'm just asking you to chant? Does that faith mean just do whatever I say only? And does lack of qualification or no need for qualification mean you don't have to be of, a particular mode of nature? You don't have to be in the mode of goodness. You could be in the mode of ignorance. You could be in the mode of heaven. It doesn't matter what mode you're in. So does lack of qualification refer to the fact that you don't have to be in a particular mode of nature? And does faith mean you just have to accept this mantra?
Absolutely. Actually, the faith means just accept the mantra, because if you go back to the example of Dhruva Maharaj, he was a little child, so very simple. He just accepted what Narada Muni told him. You just chant this mantra. And Narada Muni tried to dissuade him. He said, it's very difficult. You can't do all these things. But Dhruva Maharaj was very persistent. And he was very simple. As soon as Narada Muni gave him the mantra, he accepted it and started chanting it. So that is the childlike simplicity which is what Lord Nityananda is looking for. Faith in the sense that just follow whatever I'm saying. Just do whatever I'm saying. So that is the kind of faith that he is looking for. And it doesn't require to be in any mode. You can be. So that's what is happening with Srila Prabhupada. He said,
I'm so sorry, Mother Nityananda. My phone got cut off. And so I missed everything you said after, Narada Muni accepted, the mantra. Dhruva Maharaj, he accepted the mantra on faith, and then my phone cut out.
Yes, so Narada Muni tried to dissuade Dhruva Maharaj by saying it's a very difficult process, you won't be able to do it, you're merely a child. So he tried dissuading him as well. He was playing the devil's advocate. But Dhruva Maharaj, being a simple child, just wanted to chant whatever Narada Muni had given him. So that is a kind of simple faith that Lord Nityananda requires. So that's why we see that the people who are actually devotees, might not be so much in the forefront in our movement. They're very simple devotees serving Srila Prabhupada and serving Lord Chaitanya in some small way on their own. They're very happy serving in their own simple way. But they have love of Krishna, or they have that faith that the holy names are all I need and I can go on. So these very simple devotees make it very faster compared to the devotees who are very complicated minds, who have a lot of things going on in their head. So these simple devotees who just take the simple instruction, try this, and as soon as you accept it and start chanting, then immediately, because they have this purchased this holy name with faith, then immediately the spiritual master, which is Lord Nityananda, will give them the holy names. He's already distributing the Prem Naam. So they immediately get elevated to their in terms of their consciousness. So it doesn't require any qualification. You don't have to be in a particular mode to receive it. And this is exactly what Srila Prabhupada did when he came here. He did not expect them to be in any mode. He just fed them prasadam, cleaned all their dishes, kept serving them, giving them the holy name, and everybody started changing slowly. They put faith in Srila Prabhupada's words that you chant and you will be happy, and they started doing that, and then they started progressing in spiritual life. So it requires a very simple mind to just follow the instructions of the spiritual master. That's it.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Madam Pranam. Such a beautiful class, so nice. It was such a wonderful way to start the festival today. Thank you so much. Very thankful to Kirtida Sundari Mataji for bringing you on the call. This was a very wonderful class. Thank you so much. I really liked many points that you made, and one point that really stuck out was the point that you were talking about how a devotee really becomes so happy and people are able to witness the happiness, and we know that Krishna consciousness has made a change in them. Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure to have you on the call, and please come more often on our call, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. It was my pleasure actually being here. A very purifying experience to talk about Lord Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya. It is most beautiful to talk about them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Prabhupada, thank you for a wonderful class. I particularly appreciated and liked two things you said. One, continue, start, and stop. To continue doing, stop something that's causing you trouble, and start doing something like reading the Bhagavatam or making whatever it is that you think you need to do that would help you. Really like that, and I liked what you said about writing a letter to Lord Nityananda to free you from these anarthas. But sometimes we're afraid of what's to come if we do that. So how do we pass that roadblock, I guess you say? How do we really ask? How do we ask that really and truly? How do we prepare ourselves, I guess, for what's going to happen?
The first thing that we have to understand is that it's a very valid point. Okay, first of all, I want to say that the stop, start, continue. It was my wonderful godbrother who was giving us this very beautiful instruction on a disciples meeting. He was telling us that there are things that we can stop, start, and continue. So this was his contribution. So I would really like to thank Bhuta Bhavana Prabhu, my godbrother, for that. So that is from him I got this wonderful contribution to today's class. The second thing that I want to say is that yes, we are putting ourselves in a very vulnerable situation. When our Guru Maharaj, he made a particular prayer. He said, "Dear Lord, whatever we need for us to become better servants in the mission of Srila Prabhupada, let it happen or come to us. And whatever we need to be taken away, let it be taken away." So this was basically Anya Vilashita Shunyam, the prayer for unalloyed devotional service to Krishna. So he made this particular prayer and he told some of us to also recite it on a daily basis, and we did it. And I would say that there are consequences of that prayer, and you have to really get geared and prepared for this, because it's putting in a very vulnerable situation. But I would also tell you that Krishna will not give us more than we can handle. So he knows the situation of each person. When Srila Prabhupada was personally there on the planet, he would chastise each devotee very differently. Some of them he would chastise and they would start crying. And some of them the chastisement would be very different. So it would be very, very different based on each person's situation and circumstance. So in that sense, Krishna really doesn't give us something more than we can handle. So that's one thing. And also, he being the loving Lord, he makes sure that you do not lose faith in the whole process. He doesn't want you to be beaten up, that you lose complete faith in Krishna consciousness. He does it in very loving ways. And if you see in the pastimes of the Lord, you can see the different devotees and how their pride was crushed in different ways. Like if you see the case of Indra, his pride was crushed very badly. And if you see, again, take the example of gopis. There is a very beautiful verse in the Gopi Gita where the gopis are singing.
I'm sorry, Mataji, I'm sorry, I just missed you said, if we look at the pastimes of Lord Krishna and then there's disturbance, so I can't hear you. Can you talk a little bit louder, please?
Okay. Yes. So I can just repeat it. So if you look at the pastimes of Krishna and you can see the different devotees and how their pride was crushed, you can take the example of Indra and how his pride was crushed. His pride was crushed in a very bad way where he had to really beg for forgiveness from Krishna. He had to come down with Surabhi cow, and then this mother Surabhi went ahead and then he followed her, and then he had to beg forgiveness from Krishna for whatever he had done out of pride. So that's one instance. Then if you look at Uddhava, Uddhava was sent solely to Vrindavan, so to check his pride, because Uddhava was thinking that he was a wonderful devotee of Krishna. He was his best friend, and so his pride was crushed in a very different way from Indra's. And now you should take the example of the gopis, and there is a particular verse where in the Gopi Gita where they're singing and they're saying that Nija Janati Ham. So Krishna, the Nija Jana, who are his people, so to speak, he crushes their pride in a very different way. He disappeared from the rasa dance in a very subtle way where he left them longing for him. So he crushed their pride in a very different way. So there are 3 instances where he crushed the pride. So it depends again on our level of surrender, our level of sincerity, and in the level of sincerity with which we are making the prayer. So in that level, we are also going to be tested. We are going to be pushed to surrender in certain ways by Guru and Krishna and by Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda. And it depends really on our degree of surrender. And that's how we will also be, the reciprocation will come in that way. But that shouldn't stop us from actually writing, because we want to move forward in this lifetime, and we don't want to keep moving around in different planets, taking different bodies. So we have to have this in us, saying that whatever it takes, whatever obstacles are there, please take them away, Krishna, so that I can move forward in spiritual life. And we have to become bold and then express our thoughts very sincerely to Lord Nityananda, and then he will take care of us accordingly, depending upon our desire, upon our level of surrender. The consequences will also be in proportion to that. So that's what I think it is, because we do feel vulnerable when we write such a letter to Lord Nityananda. At many times after I wrote my letter, I would think I was not here when I wrote the letter, and I was experiencing the consequences. I was elsewhere. So I was thinking, maybe I should just go back home and tear up that letter and put it away, because see what I'm going through now. But then ultimately at the end of it, I understood that Krishna wanted to give up this mentality of I and mine. And that's why he was putting me through all these experiences, because that was my major obstacle in and I'm not saying that I've completely rid of that, but that was one of the major obstacles that was identified for me. So in my particular case, there are times when you feel very vulnerable writing such letters, but I think ultimately it would work for our benefit, and Krishna really gives us only that much that we can handle. Yeah. I hope that helps.
Thank you so much, Mataji, for that. Thank you so much. It gives me courage. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, I just let me see, can I hear? Yeah, I just wondered if I could just comment on that last question, because I had that same question myself that I have put to people. Is that okay?
Sure.
Yeah, I was there are two things that came to mind. One is an aphorism I heard that, if God brings you to it, then God will bring you through it. So like as you said, He will help you through whatever challenge you need to face in order to move forward. And the other thing is that, even if we have to face some very intense situation in order to move forward, after we come through it, and we look back in hindsight, we will really be so thankful for what Krishna put us through, so to speak, because of the realization that we got as a result of His putting us through that challenging situation in order to progress. Where we end up will be so valuable that we will end up grateful for whatever intense situation we had to face.
Yes,
anyway, so that's something that I heard that I found very comforting. So because I had the same question, so I just thought I would share that thing.
Thank you. Yeah, that makes total sense. That he put us through. It was the first aphorism.
If He brings us to it, He'll pull us through it.
Okay.
Something like that.
Yes. Yeah, that makes total sense, because Krishna is not someone who wants to watch us suffer and He's not going to enjoy. He wants us to go back to Him more than we want to go back to Him. So in our own interest, the things that He does for us, we don't understand it, but it is for our own interest that He is doing these things to bring us back to Him. And then He spends His special agents, like our spiritual masters, and then these different devotees of the Lord who come in disguise, whom we really don't recognize. There might be even devotees whom we don't get along with in our own congregations, and we think, oh, they're such a pain, but in reality they're helping us to get rid of our consciousness and to move forward. So,
yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Krishna, if there are no more questions, can we stop here?
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Can you hear me, Mataji?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you so much for your wonderful class. I like so many points. The last question was also we all go through, and I was thinking same way about what to ask, and if I ask, I was scared whether I'll be able to handle it or not. And that letter, if I write very nice explanation, is also vulnerable, like you said when we write. I like the other point when you said about the duplicity point, what we go through, what we say, what we mean, how we act, where we put all three things together, like talking, behaving, and acting. Three has to be in a link, not like say something and then behave differently. And so that point I liked it very much.
Thank you much.
And thank you. And it's wonderful. It gives courage to a lot of people, and a lot of all the devotees differently, different mode, different situation, there are different levels. So all you covered everything, and I'm really thankful to everyone, all the devotees who guides me, and thank you so much for the nice class. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji, for this opportunity to hear and coordinating all this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. Very nice and very nice instructions. And we have to be patient and follow the instructions. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for sharing your personal experiences, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
If no one else has any questions or comments, we can end the class. Thank you so much again, Mataji, for your very, very sweet association. Wish you all a very happy Nityananda Trayodasi again. We can end the class now. Vancha kalpatarubhescha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam bhavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananda Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nityananda Trayodasi Maha Mahotsav ki jai, Her Grace Nityananda Mataji ki jai.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much.